Hi, good morning. This is Tina, and we're going to have some tangling fun this morning. For a change for this morning, I sort of have an idea of one of the tangles that I want to use. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to move all this out of the way. What I'm using is I'm using a Zentangle tile, and it is 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch. So if you don't have the Zentangle tiles, you can use any piece of card, paper, yeah, anything to draw on, tangle on. This has got sort of it's not completely smooth. It has a teeny tiny texture, which is my preference. But you may prefer on smooth card. It's worth having a little scribble on something and see what your preference is. So that's 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch. I'm going to use a micron pen or one. I may change it to something bigger at some point if I think it's too fine. I'm using the Zentangle pencil. This is an HB pencil, so you can use any pencil you have. I'm going to blend using the Tortillon for the shading. And yeah, that's it. I may or may not use some gold gel pen. We'll see. And let's get started. So let's start with our thank you for today. What are you thankful for? What are you feeling grateful for today? Me, definitely this time I have to tangle with all of you. And yeah, being indoors, definitely. It's pouring today. It's a bit windy, so definitely being indoors, warm and cozy. Let's take a moment and yeah, just be, relax, and take your deep breaths. Okay, let's start. So we're going to start with corner dots. Corner dots. I forgot to put cream on my fingers, didn't I? Although now that I've said it, you're probably going to focus on that. Okay, so corner dots. This is a great way to start to break into the paper. Well, not break into, but just put some mark on the paper. I think sometimes we're too scared, right, to draw on a nice paper that we may be using. It's just blank, so it's a nice way. So we've put the corner dots. We're going to put a border. What the border will do, it will help me, just frame out where I want to stay. Well, just make a frame. I may stay within this frame. I may not stay within this frame. It's not important. We'll see, but it's there just to help me if I need it. Next, a string. So for this, I'm going to draw a circle. It does not have to be a perfect circle. And you can see my hand is a bit wibbly wobbly first thing in the morning, and that's okay. It's quite a large circle, and it's a very light circle on the screens. There we go. It's just very wibbly wobbly. I'm going to see if by zooming out, you might see the circle better. Not really. I think it's just something to do with the light shining from above. Is that better? I think that's a bit better, right? I think it's because I've drawn it so lightly that, but you can see it's not a perfect circle. It's just an orb. It's just a rough string guide, so it doesn't really matter. So the tangle I want to create within this circle is the tangle ing. It's one that I get confused very quickly with, but it is really pretty. And this is by Zentangle headquarters. So it's a Zentangle Tangle. I'm going to turn that around. So what I'm going to do is now, I've had a little play. And usually ink, well, not usually, I guess it can go in any directions, but every time I've done it before, I've pretty much done it in a straight or in a tiny curve. So it's the first time I'm actually doing it in a circle. So we'll see how it goes. Remember, no mistakes. So ink basically starts off as a zigzag. You can make even zigzags, you can make uneven zigzags. We go halfway across there. So I would do all of them across there. On the other side, from this point, the opposite point, we're going to go halfway into here. If I went from here to here, it will give me a different pattern. With ing, we go halfway on the opposite side. Yeah. Next, what we want to do is we want to go halfway in the lines we have just created. So we go from this point halfway there. So from this point, approximately halfway, it doesn't have to be absolute precise, halfway. And the same this way. So this is our last line, and we're going to go halfway-ish to the point. Okay, so if I was to do just two, so starting from there, I'm going to go across. So you can, there's two ways. So this I did all the way along here first and then there. If you want, you can do one side, go above there, this side, come back down here, this side, and this would continue there. Yeah. Next, we are going to, so this was our line. So from this point, halfway, halfway, halfway. So what you get is you get this zigzaggy pattern. Okay, so to help me with the circle, what I am going to do is I am going to put just markers for me because I think it will help me. So I'm going to put, how many zigzags do I want first? Let's go with, should we make it big or small? Oh, decisions. Let's go 8. It will be easier. So along there, if you can see, I've just put dots to break up the circle. And I'm going to put dots halfway between each of those. Approximately, I'm not measuring anything, just approximately. The other thing I'm going to do is between two dots, a bit further down, I'm going to put dots between all the two. Just as a rough guide, some will be higher, some will be lower, and that is fine. Have I done them all? There we go. So now I'm going to create my zigzag. So from the first dot, I'm going to go across here, back out, next dot in, back out, next dot in, out, and keep turning your tile. And you can see it's very irregular zigzag, and that is fine. So what you'll end up with is some, well, different shaped triangles, different sizes, which makes it sort of, what you call it? No, the word escapes me. Okay. So that's our basic zigzag. It's very irregular because don't forget my dots were very irregular. Next, we're going to start from any one point. So I'm going to start from the center here, and I'm going to go to approximately the middle there. Yes. Now you can do all of them if you want, or if you prefer. So we hit this line here. So at the tip of that point, of that line, the same point, I'm going to go halfway there. So back on, so there's our line, the tip there, across there. It hit this line here. So I'm going to go to the tip of that and back out. And it's approximate halfway. I'm not, once again, I'm not measuring. I'm just going with the flow. Oopsie daisy. I'm going off the screen. You can see I just keep turning my tile this way and that way so it's comfortable for me and my wrist. I think it's because I've got the card underneath. The card is slipping, and with the card, so is my, did I go half? So we started there, so we've come to, this is the last one here. There we go. So that's what we have so far. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this card out of the way so it doesn't slide as much. So next we need to go from one of the lines to the point. So this was our latest inside lines. So you're going to go about halfway to the point. I'm going to do them all, the inside ones first this time around. So halfway to the point, halfway to the point. So that's what we have so far. We're going to do the outside ones. So for the outside ones, this were our lines. And which way am I going to go? So I'm going to go, I'm going to come towards me. So about halfway from the line to the tip. So about halfway to the tip. Oopsie daisy, that missed completely. That's okay. And I've done that one. Okay. So we have options here. We can, there's loads of options actually. Let me bring this in. So for example, we've got our little triangles. You could, for example, put an aura. An aura is basically following the previous line with a bit of space. And so you could put an aura, and you could maybe just, what's it called? Not curve. Round off the inside. So it looks like there is an orb squashed in and color within those corners. You could, so again, if I do an aura, you could draw an orb and color that in, ink it in. Again, oh, I mean, not again, I'm not doing it properly, but just to show you. You could, you don't necessarily need to aura. So what else can we do? We could to lines. So let's do a circle and around there to the corner, around the circle, and then maybe just little triangles in those areas. Oopsie daisy. And fill those, so aura in circle, and each one will look different. So there's lots of options for your triangles, any fragment in there. Okay, what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to put lines basically. So what I'm going to do is, where for each triangle where I meet, where it meets the point, for example, I'm going to decide on one point. So I'm going to start with the main zigzag we had put, the original. This was my point where I started. So I'm going to come in there and I'm going to draw a line. You can put slight curves if you want. You can keep them straight. You can put as many lines as you want or as few. I'm just going to go with those many. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put weights on the end of the lines. So I'm doing a little rounding and then coloring it in on either side. I'm going to do all of those first. It'll just keep me sort of more focused as to where I'm going with my lines. So lines in each section, and I'm going to add a bit of weighting on the end. So a little curve and then back out. A little curve, back out. As a matter of fact, I am going to weight them. So in this corner, I'm going to come around, fill that in. You can do the filling and come back. And I'm going to just follow that back down. It will just add extra weight on the inside lines. So if I show you on this, there we go. Do you see how that is more defined than this one, just by adding that extra, just going over it again. So I'm going to do that again on this. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a little rounding back up on the line and all the way down, filling in the area where the rounding is. So I'd come back here, round it and down. Up, round it, down. Okay, so this one again, I'm going to first break it into sections. There we go. So I'm going to follow this line up, round, and back down. I'm going to go back up, round, back down. And then I'm just going to fill those little V's in there. Yeah. So I'll do that on all of them. I'm getting approximately 3. You may get, more depending on how big your V's are. Oops. You may get fewer. Sorry, not how big your V's are, how big your triangles are. And then color that in, ink it in. That line was a bit wibbly wobbly, so when I go over it, I have the opportunity to just neaten it up a little bit, and it will add a bit of weight on it as well. So this is just repetition. After a while, your hand gets used to the movement you're doing. So you can do all the line work first and then come back and put your rounding. You can do them as you go along like I am doing. It is absolutely up to you. My workspace is well, it's in my mom's conservatory. And when it's raining, you can hear the rain. Yeah, I love that sound. I don't know about you guys. Do you like the sound of when rain is pouring? I just love that sound. I find it very relaxing. As a matter of fact, it's one of the sounds I put on at night when I can't sleep. I just put the sound of the raindrops. So at the moment, yeah, as much as I'm grateful for being indoors, I'm also grateful for the rain. Well, yeah, for the rain in a strange way. Because I love the sound of it. So, it's great. When the kids were young, well, not that young, but when my kids were young, I used to joke with them. I used to say to them, like, I don't like wet rain. And they just thought it was hilarious because just to say wet rain was sort of a contradiction, right? But it was just one of the things their mother would come out with. And they still tease me about it. Every time it's raining, they'll say, look, Mom, wet rain. So there we go. That's what we have. So now we're going to repeat on the opposite side. So this time our point is up here on these points. So I'm going to turn it round. So I'm working from outside and I'm going to repeat the same. I'm going to draw my lines. And then I'm going to round them. So once again, I'm going to go up and round. You may want to go just halfway and then round. You may want to leave not going over the lines again. So you have finer lines. There is no right or wrong. There is no mistakes. There's only opportunities. I'm going to go this way. Like I said, you can put curves on these lines. You can keep them straight. Whatever you prefer. And what you see is like this really pretty pattern appearing. How pretty does that look? For the last few days, I have been playing with this tangle, and one of the tiles I did, I got my zigzags mixed up and it didn't go where I thought it was going to go. But I continued And I really like that tile. I'll show it towards the end of this. I really like how it came out. So even if you're unsure about where your tile is going at the moment, just continue. Because when you finish it, it all comes together. No matter where you've gone with it, it comes together. Oh, that was a bit wibbly wobbly. And that is okay. These are hand drawn. They're not computer generated. So they can be wibbly wobbly. Maybe 2 would have been fine in that space. It was quite a thin space. So for example, in this one, that's quite a thin space. I'm just going to do 2 rather than 3 lines. So depending on the space you have, you're going to decide how many lines you put. And I get 2 or 1. Well, I'm going to go with 2. I just love how adding these extra weights on the end of lines just changes the look of what we're doing completely. Just a few weight and it looks totally different. Oh, I was supposed to do this one here, but I did that one. I did the outside one, yeah. You see, it was supposed to be this one, but I've done this one. So like I said, remember, no mistakes. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to put these ones in where I was supposed to. But then now I know for sure that I'm going to do this in the others. So now it looks like it's one continuous space around here. Now there is a few ways I could change that to make it look like it's not one big space, it's 2 separate triangles, but I'll come to that later. Let's finish these first. So I've gone, sorry, I've gone around on all of them that you can see. So now I'm going to, because I've done this one from there out, I'm going to repeat the same on all of those there. So I'm going to break that up and round them. Just need to turn that up a bit thicker in some places, but that's okay. So I'll do all the triangles first, then look at it and see whether I want to separate those two triangles. Let's finish all this line work and the weighting, and then decide. One way of separating those triangles would be to, maybe if you want to color them different, color on the inside with pencils, pens, anything. That is one way to separate the triangles. But once I've finished, I may actually like what I see, so I may not do anything. So sometimes it's worth waiting till you finish the part you're doing on your tile, and then assessing whether you want to add anything extra to it or you're happy with it. If you're happy with it, then you leave it and go to the next thing. If you feel it needs something else, you can add it in. I think just one in here. It's quite a teeny tiny triangle. Again, I think just one in this one. So there we go, that's what we have. So now we have these triangles here, the inside ones. So I'm going to repeat the same. So what I'm going to do for this one is, if you remember, our points on the inside were from here out, and that's where our weighting was. I'm going to repeat the same because that's what I had all the weights along here. So on these, I'm going to have all the weights along here. So there's my corner, and the weights will continue along the same line there. What I wanted to do is put the weighting at different angles when I first started putting the weights, but it didn't quite work out that way. My mind had different ideas. Well, I think my mind didn't have different ideas. My mind was wandering to the sound of the rain. So I got lost in just adding weights as opposed to looking to see where I was putting them. And for me, that I don't mind that, because for me, it's about the process of tangling, and I'm not focusing so much and getting worked up about which way am I going, what am I doing. I'm just being present in the moment, being mindful. I guess that's why I find this very relaxing. I'm not aiming to draw anything specific. Yes, I choose a tangle and go with. If it, if I get like it wrong, it doesn't matter. For me, it's this time that I'm sitting down, me time, doing something I enjoy without putting the pressure on myself. I have to get things, perfect. I'm pretty sure perfection, the word perfection, it shouldn't exist in my books. But I don't think there's anything that's perfect. Well, there might be, but where art is concerned, I don't know what's perfection. What might be so, perfect to one person may be imperfect to another person. I think it's something we have in our heads. And when you're inking, be aware that, if you see some space that you haven't inked in, go back, add that little dot of ink in that space. I mean, these are only small spaces, but when you're filling in large spaces with ink, it's really worth going back and adding that little extra dot of ink if it needs it. So there we go, that is what we have. And that looks quite pretty actually. So do I want to separate where those outside triangles from the zigzag? I think I will, simply because I just want to show you that, if you do what I did, then how we can sort of change it. I quite like this, but on this occasion, I'm going to just add a little something to separate that triangle from that triangle, for example. In my head, I'm thinking, what do I add? That's what I'm thinking. How about, so my triangle starts here. How about just some orbs? Teeny tiny orbs just to separate that. If you need to add a dot of ink. You see, just tiny dots, and that separated that. So again, you would do the same on this one, the outside one. So that's where my point is. I'm going to start with just little orbs going all the way up. And I'm going to fill that space between the orbs. There's some of them are teeny tiny, so you don't need to do anything. Depending on how big your sections are, between the weighted lines, you'll have big orbs or you'll have smaller orbs. There you go. So now you've separated those two circles. We're going to repeat that on all of them. You can do all the orbs first and then go back and fill in the spaces. And like I said, it'll just be a dot here, a dot there, because, well, my triangles are quite small. But it adds that little drama as well to the tile itself. That's looking very dramatic now with lots of ink in those sections. So just on the outside ones, and then the inner main first zigzag we did in those sections, I'm going to leave it as it is, open areas, and the contrast between the open areas and the inked in areas, I quite like that. I love some open space. It's a good balance, you know, when you have like lots of inked in areas and the open spaces. I mean, other than the fact that I knew I wanted to do this video with ink in it, I have no idea in the other areas what I'm going to do. This has quite straight lines, so I'm thinking maybe some tangle with some curves in it. Something organic, flowy. Let's see, let's do this first and then decide. And you know, if you're joining me, you do tangling, and if there's any particular tangle you would like me to use, for example, just pop a comment and let me know. I mean, I may have used that tangle before, or I may not have used that tangle before. But in a way, if I haven't used it before or not used it in a very long time, it's well, a learning process for me too. It gives me that opportunity, especially if it's a new tangle to me, to actually play with it. So yeah, if you've seen a tangle and you think, you know, I'd like to see more of that tangle used, just drop a comment and let me know, and I'll see if I can do something with it, do a video, and yeah, learn. This one had just two. Almost there. I'm a very slow tangler. So if you've already done yours, you can fast forward if you wish, unless you want to hear me waffle on. And the bigger the sections, the quicker you can actually fill in the areas. I'm usually not in a rush to finish a tile. I like to take my time, enjoy the process. And I tangle quite small. But that's only because I shouldn't say my preference, because I actually quite like the look of, when other tangle artists do a larger tangling. I love the look of that, but my hand and brain don't coordinate like that. So I just yeah, go with the flow, and whatever happens, happens. I try to make my sections big and everything, but usually it really doesn't work. That's a lot of orbs. But don't they look pretty? Look at how pretty that looks. When I look at this now, my head, well, I'm telling myself, well, I am really grateful that I put that one in one of these where I hadn't originally thought in my head, because now I love the look of this, the way it is. And, this is a perfect example of when we say no mistakes, because what I had thought in my head I was going to do to what I did, I could have easily, said to myself, oh dear, I made a mistake, and then stopped. But then if I had stopped, I would have not been doing what I'm doing now and be really happy with it. I love the look of this already. This one here. I keep going towards the other side, don't I, of the screen? You'd have thought by now I would know. That's okay. My focus is on tangling as opposed to looking on the screen constantly. I know, I should. Not making excuses. But when you're enjoying something like this, it's hard to look up. One more. I believe we're like it's last full week of February. I mean, I can't believe that. It's just time seems to have gone so quickly that we're in the last week of February. I don't even know where time has gone, to be honest. There we go. So that's what we have. How pretty is that? That's so pretty. Okay, next I got to think what we're going to do in there. And I definitely want something that flows, and I'm not sure what I want though. I think, or should I do a grid? I know I always go to Muka, sorry, Muka, yeah, Muka and Flux. And I think I may go with Flux in there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it differently this time, where I'm going to start from the center and work out. So I'm going to start with teeny tiny Mukas, sorry, Flux. So Flux, sorry, a curve around and curve it back inwards to bring to a point. And you can put detailing if you wish, or you can leave it so curve around that way. So you can leave it like that if you wish. You can do this if you wish. You can do this if you wish. So it depends whether you want detailing inside or not. So I'm going to do teeny tiny Flux. I should put it at the back. So I'm using Flux, and that's by Zentangle headquarters too. And this is Rick's version of Flux. So I've started off teeny tiny, and now I'm going to grow this. And if there's space, fill in the space between. So at the moment, I'm going between the previous two. They've got slightly bigger. And I'm going to continue just growing this, one on top of the other. So that goes behind there and around. And you can make them go in different directions if you wish. So by that I mean I'm going this way, but I can make it go this way, under and out. And if there's spaces, I can just like ink in a little bit. Just one there and ink in this space. So as I'm going outwards, they're growing slightly bigger, different directions. I'm not paying attention to, getting perfect curves on my flocks. I'm just adding curves wherever I feel like it, because I mean, one of the reasons I'm not paying too much attention is by the time we have done like so many of these, whether a curve is curvy enough or not is really not going to matter. Look at that. It's looking so pretty. And some of them are still small, but I'm trying I'm trying really hard to make them bigger. Honestly, in my head I'm telling myself make them bigger. But like I said, head and hand don't coordinate about tangling big. I have some going underneath the previous one. It's what we call holly bowing, where something goes underneath something else. Okay, I am going to make an even bigger effort to go bigger. Because in my head, it definitely feels like I'm tangling the same size. How's that looking? Look at that. Should lift it. That's looking so pretty. And again, you can see I keep turning my tile so that it's comfortable in whichever position I'm tangling in for my hand. That's a lot of flux. It looks so pretty. Flux can be used like sort of individually. It can be used as a filler as well, which is what we're doing right now. We're just filling this area with it. And it's a really nice, pretty one as a filler, especially when you will have something like, very straight grid. For example, Tangle, because this will give your tile a bit of flow, a bit of like an organic feel to it. I mean, that's not saying that, if you had a tile with all grid work is anyway not, what's it called? Flowy? No, not flowy. the word escapes me. I thought of it earlier and then I forgot. At this point, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to just work outwards as I fill in these few spaces. I'm putting teeny tiny ones. I could just fill it in, to be honest. I don't know, it gives me pleasure to do the teeny tiny ones in there. I was going to say, remind me to show you the other ink examples I've done, but you can't remind me, can you? Because I can't hear you. It's a pre-recorded video. This is what I mean by sometimes I do not think. Some of them are really tiny. And, you know, it's more just an impression that there those just hiding in there. You don't need to put them in. I'm deciding depending on, for example, if I think a space may be too big to ink in, then I'm putting in a teeny tiny one just to break that space up a bit. I could have put an aura just outside the ink and inside the ink. If I didn't want, for example, my flux to be touching the ink. So I could have done an aura around it that would have separated the two tangles. But in this case, I just went without the aura. I mean, one, I wasn't thinking what I was putting. I was just going with the flow. And yeah, but I think, you know, in some of the examples I've done, I've put a separation just to separate the tangles and aura, which I'll show you. And if you decide to do something similar again, you know, try it with the aura, for example, and see whether it is something you would like to do in the future with your other tangling is, you know, add auras. Now this, I could have gone to a bigger nib micron pen. I've continued with the O1 with a bigger micron pen nib. Again, you tangle, the tangling happens sort of faster because the pen nib is bigger. But I quite like how these flocks, because they're so tiny, it just adds a bit of it adds a delicate look to them. I'm gonna color that whole thing. I was gonna put a teeny tiny flocks. Getting there. Can't wait to see what this is going to look like once it's finished. I think homework for me for the next video I do probably needs to be used a different tangle other than flux to fill in spaces or as an organic tangle. I think it's just, I love this tangle and I've done it so much that now automatically it's what I tangle. If I think I want to put something somewhere and I'm not sure what I want to put, it's usually flux and muka that I end up putting in. And they always look so pretty. So there we go. That's the whole section filled in. And I'm going to look at that and see. So there we go. How pretty that is. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is I want to put something outside here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend this flux has broken back out into that. So I'm going to restate my border with the pen. So I'm just redrawing over it, whether I go on the pencil line or I'm not on the pencil line, it really doesn't matter. I just want to have a border. So there we go. Okay, so I just went over the pencil lines. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have this flux coming out into there. And what I'm going to do is, am I going to aura this time? No, I'm not going to aura. I'm just going to make them bigger. And once again, I'm just going to fill in this space with bigger muka, sorry, I don't know why I keep saying muka, flux. And if you want to put teeny tiny ones in to fill in spaces, you can. If you want to just fill in, you can. You see, they're much bigger now. I just want to fill this area with flux, so it looks like they're sort of growing out. They're growing from in there outwards. I'm not going to add any more tangles to this, so 2 tangles, ink and flux. And as I'm tangling, if I see something needs inking in, because yeah, I see where there's white dots in the previously inked areas, I'm just going in and just adding that dot of ink in. Because as you turn your tile and where the light catches, you may see spaces that haven't been covered properly with ink. So it's worth adding that little dot in. I'm just going this way and that way. I thought that space was too big, so I just added another flux. Almost one corner. I think it's because I'm adding lots of teeny tiny ones as well, that it's taking me a bit longer to do this. If I was to just ink all those sections, it would be a lot quicker. Fill that area in. Let's try and make them bigger. Oopsie daisy. So that's what we've got happening. That's a massive one. Compared to all the others, that's quite massive. And that's okay. It's probably my son's size. My son is 6'5". So when I'm standing next to him, he feels like a giant. I think I am probably about 5'5". I'm pretty sure I've shrunk. But they say as you grow older, you shrink. And 5'5" is being optimistic. So you can imagine when I'm standing next to my son, how tiny I would look. Let's put that there. Sorry, I think there was a bleep in the recording. I just heard a ping ping. I think it froze. I think because the weather is so bad, the Wi-Fi is sort of cutting out for a second or so in between. I'm hoping it's just a second or so in between. I don't know if it's happened before during this video because I haven't been looking up. I hope not. We'll keep the shading pretty simple on this and see what happens. How pretty is that looking? It looks like the ink is nestled between the chunks. And with the shading, we'll be able to bring the ink more into the forefront as well. In the previous videos, for example, when I've done flux, we've shaded them individually. I'm not going to shade this because this is a filler for me. So I'm going to shade each muka individually. If I was to do that, I think I'll be here forever. I guess I could pause the recording and do that. But the chances are I will forget to restart the recording when I'm doing that. So we won't risk doing that, but you could shade each one individually if you wished. And for me, to be honest, my main tangle I wanted to focus on for this tile was ing. So that's what I'm going to focus my shading on as well. love the look of this. Just 2 tangles. Oh, that was a teeny tiny one again. I don't know, sometimes it feels it needs something in there. Yeah, that looks so pretty. Even if I may say so myself. And first and foremost, remember, you have to appreciate your work. Taken the time to do this. It's me time. It's not so much about what it's going to look like at the end. It's just that time you've given yourself to just escape your everyday stuff. And be creative. You don't need to add pressure on yourself. Which way? Almost there. Just a few more. And we can have a look and see what it looks like. There we go. That's a lot of mocha. Yeah, that looks so pretty. Okay, we've done that. Let's add some shading. So with the shading, I'm going to use the pencil and a tortilla, and I'm going to keep it pretty simple actually. But what I might do is I might add some white as well with a white chalk pencil, which I haven't got out with me. So bear with me while I grab my white chalk pencil. Okay, so I'm back. So what I went to grab is my white chalk pencil. This is by Generals. It's a lovely soft white uh, chalk pencil and a different tortilla for the white. Let's start with the black pencil. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start with putting shading on the ink itself. So wherever these meet at the point, I am going to add a bit of shading. I am not using the point of the pencil. It is low down. I don't want to get any sort of solid lines. So I'm just adding a bit, very little in the corners because we will be able to spread this. So here and here is where I've added it. So I'm going to do that on all of them where the lines meet. So just where the points are. And like I said, I'm not putting a lot because they will blend. We'll pull the color out. And you can do it one triangle at a time if you wish. You can do all of them. So I've done that, and what I'm going to do is I'm using the tortilla, and again at a low angle, just very gently, I'm rubbing over the pencil and bringing it out. You can see the blending there. This one here. So I'm going to do those on all of them. Just very gently. I'm not pressing with the tortilla because I don't want to damage the paper itself. So I'm first rubbing on where the pencil was and pulling the color out. And you can see those that I've done and all these that I've not done. It really helps. I think bring it to life. Can you say that? For me, it's definitely a magic moment. It's amazing, how with just a regular pencil, you can make something come to life and almost create a 3D look to it with some very basic materials. I'm just doing all the inside ones first. So I'm not moving my hand back and forth. My hand stays in one position and I just move the tile around. So when I'm doing this, I'm rubbing the black first where the pencil is, and then I'm pulling the color out. As I'm going outwards, I'm sort of making my blending even with a lighter hand. I'm not pressing as hard as I'm going out. I mean, not that I'm pressing hard to begin with, but as I go along, it's just the featherest touch, almost just sliding on the paper itself. So there we go. We've got that. What I'm going to do is on these circle bits, I am going to do the same, but I am going to not go with the black too much, although that's easier said than done because there is quite a bit of black, so I'm not going to actually worry about it. But where there is a lot of inking, I'm trying not to get too much of the graphite on, because when you put graphite on the inked area, it turns it silvery and doesn't look as dark. You can always go back and add a bit of ink again to bring the dark back. But once again, finish this and then see what it looks like, whether you're happy with the look of it, and then decide if you want to add a bit more. Okay, so again, pull the color out. I'm not going to use the gel pen like I said I may use. But you could always add, like, for example, a few dots of gel pen in the circles if you wish. Or between the lines in the ink. I think I quite like this, the way it's turned out in black and white. Having said that, I usually change my mind at the end. So if I feel I want to add something, I then go ahead and add it. So there we go, there's our ink. Now what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm not going to color, I'm not going to put graphite on each and every single muka to blend this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit in the center here. And I'm going to just bring it out a little bit. That's where they're growing from. So just bigger rounder circles. And then I am going to follow where the ink is on the inside. I'm going to follow that around and add graphite. I don't know if you can see. Just like a thin couple of millimeters of graphite I've added along the outline on the inside. Just follow that around. And there's lots of different ways of shading. But for this one, I'm keeping it pretty simple. So again, I'm pulling the graphite towards the center this time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more layer of this dark of the graphite along again in the same place, and it will look like this whole section is going underneath. There you go. So again, I'm going to just go back and add a bit more along here to make it really dark. So it looks like the ink is sitting on top of the flux that is growing. And I'm going to blend it, but not outwards. I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit. So I've made it stronger. So I'm not going outwards. I'm just going over it and just smoothing it out just a tiny bit. Just going over it back and forth just to smooth it. And I'll just make it that much darker. There you go. So I'm going to do the same on the outside here. So I'm going to follow it along there. Just along the outline of the ink. And then I'm going to blend that towards the inside. So you're going from dark to light. I've got enough graphite on there. If I want to come out a bit more, I can. Without needing to add a bit more graphite, I mean. So for example, I can bring it out. So on this one, I think I want to bring it out a bit more here. So without needing to add more graphite, I can just pull the color out. There's plenty on the tortilla, so I don't need to add any more. Have a look at it and see if you need to just add a bit more anywhere. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that. And then once again, I'm going to go back and add along the outline the dark, which I am not going to blend outwards, just smooth it out a bit. Just to give it that dark. There we go. So this I'm just going to smooth rather than blending it outwards. I'm just rubbing back and forth. You can see by adding just that extra graphite on the inside and outside, just outside the outlines of the ink, how it looks like the ink is sitting on top of the flux. The last thing, like I said, is I'm going to add a bit of white chalk pencil on the tile. So this is General's chalk pencil, and just where there is the space between the two shaded areas, I'm adding a little bit of chalk to make this section pop is not the right word, but it'll just add a roundness to it. So, oops, not the black one. So I'm going to get a clean chalk pencil and again blend that. General's white chalk pencil is really soft and it blends beautifully. But sometimes I find I want to add just a couple of layers because it does rub off very quickly too. And you don't always necessarily need to use your tortillon to blend it. You can just leave it. There we go. And what I'm going to do is just one last bit is take the black and I'm going to go over the black and just bring it gently into that chalk. So it looks like one is going into another and the same on that. Just to make that white sort of blend with the black. And I haven't added any extra graphite on my black because there's plenty there. So that's what we have there. Now I'm just going to go back and just go over my outlines for the ink. So along here, because we have a lot of graphite, we've lost the ink outline. I'm just going to go back and just bring the main outline back up. I don't know if you can see here where I've done the outline. I've just gone back and forth a bit. And this will make it look like it's on top as well. It just adds that extra little bit of love to your tile. And it helps with if you definitely want to make something look like it's sitting on top of another layer. And this really helps by putting in the outline back in. You can see how that's now looking even more. Because I've put quite a bit of graphite, I'm not being able to see exactly where the outlines are. So I'm going over it a few times. So there you go. And I'm going to do the same on the outside. With the light from the conservatory windows coming in, it's shining right on top of my graphite. So I don't know where the graphite ends and where my original outlines were. I'm just sort of trying to go over them, but sometimes it's becoming thicker because I've missed the outline completely. That's okay. You could go back in and add the extra lines on, for example, all the sections of the ink if you so wished, to separate each section. Not all the lines, but each section if you so wished. I'll have a look and see once I finish this whether I want to do that or not. Whether I like the look of how it is. And that. Just trying to remember where I started and where I stopped. I think I've done that. Have I? Have I not? There you go. So now the ink is right on top of the flux. What I'm going to do is am I going to, yeah, I'm just going to section it off. So just the lines again. I'm not going to do all the rounding and everything again, but just the main outline of the triangles. Oopsie daisy. I think it just like if you've got a lot of graphite, I feel it definitely makes a difference by just doing this. I have no idea where I started and stopped. I should have probably marked it with a pencil. I think I've done it all, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I have, because I don't see any graphite shining through at the tips. So there we go. So that's what we have. It's almost like a tunnel effect in there. Like the flux is growing outwards. Okay. So what would we, let's sign that. So name, date is 21st. No, it is not 14, it's 2. For someone who said, can't believe it's February, I've jumped straight to April. Well, in my date, I was going to jump straight to April. So this is my Tangle time 9 tile, I think. And can I just say a massive thank you to all of you for joining me today. It's such a pleasure that you're able to join me. I'm really grateful for that. What we need to do is we need to sign our work as well on the front. So I'm going to turn it around and see which I want as my front. When you turn it around, you see it at different sort of, you see it differently. So I don't know. I don't know. Someone decide for me. This way, I think. Or this way. Yeah, let's go with this way. So I'm going to sign it. Where do I sign it? That's tiny. So I am going to sign it. Do you know what? I am going to put my signature under this flux vein here. That's the completed tile. So I was going to show you the other examples of the ink tiles that I did. Honestly, it is somewhere here. Okay, here we go. So this one was the one I was saying where I got my the orientation of the ink going wrong, where we want this zigzag. Over here, I lost that zigzag, but look at how pretty that looks, even when I lost the zigzag. And because I didn't stop, I just continued with whatever I had put down. I am really happy with how this turned out. So not the original ink, but it's really worth continuing, to be honest. And then this one was another one I've done, and I'll post it later. Now, doesn't neon make your heart happy? Well, it makes my heart happy. This is one in neon, and I've just colored the different sections in different neon colors just for a bit of fun. I did. Here I have used flux and Muka. And this is a tangle called Strickles. Yeah, Strickles, I think. Or Stickles, Strickles, because you've got the streaks. So this is a really fun tangle as well. On this one, it was, this is fescue. And then in the fescue, I split the sections off a little, well, I tried the impression of Enzapo in there between the fescue, and I thought that looked really pretty. And this is a fragment we used in the last video, which was 8, and I still don't remember which fragment it is. Oh, I really must write it down. Yeah, I haven't written it down. So there we go. So 3 inks. This one gone wrong in inverted commas, gone wrong, not wrong. I really like this. This one is a bit of happy with neon colors. And this one is what we've done today. So once again, thank you for joining me. And I hope to see everyone if they try and recreate this. Tag me on social media so I can have a look. And yeah, till next time. Thank you. Bye.